I am 108 years old. Yes, 108. And even now I am still sitting here, talking to you. My hands are not as strong as they used to be. My steps are slower now, but my mind is still here, clear enough to remember, clear enough to speak, clear enough to tell you what I have learned. Do you know what is strange? All my life, people told me what I should eat and what I should avoid. They told me to be careful with fat. They told me to stay away from eggs. They told me meat was dangerous. They told me one thing this year, and the opposite thing 10 years later. And little by little, it felt like everything became something to fear. But as the years passed, I began to notice something. Not everything people say is true, and not every simple food is your enemy. Today, advice comes from everywhere. Television, the internet, people selling powders, people selling pills, people selling diets with names I cannot even pronounce. But my life was never like that. I was not rich. I did not grow up with expensive food. I did not study medicine. And I do not pretend to know more than a doctor. But I do know one thing. I have lived long enough to see what stayed with me. There were 7 simple foods I never truly removed from my life. Not magic foods, not miracle foods, just real foods. The kind people used to eat before everything came in a box. And maybe, just maybe, they are part of the reason I am still here today, still looking at you, still speaking, still alive. Number 1, olive oil. When I was young, we did not talk about healthy fats the way people do today. We did not use fancy words. We did not count everything. We just knew the difference between food that felt real and food that felt heavy. A little oil on vegetables, a little oil with bread, a little oil in a simple meal, nothing much. But it made food feel complete. I have seen people become afraid of fat. They hear the word fat, and they think it means sickness. But listen to me. Not all fat is the same. There's the kind that comes from deep-fried junk, the kind that leaves you tired, the kind that makes your body feel heavy. And then there is the kind that comes from real food. Olive oil was never something I poured without thinking. I did not drink it like medicine. I did not treat it like a secret potion. I used a little, enough to make the food warm, enough to make vegetables taste alive, enough to remind the body that food is not only fuel, it is comfort too. A simple bowl of greens with a little olive oil, a piece of bread dipped lightly, a warm meal cooked slowly. These things may not look special to young people today, but when you live long enough, you learn something. The body does not always need more. Sometimes it needs better, and sometimes the smallest things, used the right way, stay with you for a lifetime. Number 2, fish. I did not grow up eating fancy meals. There was no expensive plate in front of me, no perfect diet, no one telling us how many grams of this or that we needed. We ate what we had, and many times what we had was fish, simple fish, sometimes fresh, sometimes canned, sometimes small, sometimes shared between everyone at the table, but it was real, and I still remember how I felt after eating it. Not heavy, not sleepy, just steady, like my body had received something it understood. Today people talk about omega-3, they talk about brain health, they talk about the heart. I did not know those words when I was young. I only knew this. When fish stayed in my life, my mind felt clearer, my body felt lighter. And as I got older, I began to understand why that mattered. Because there comes a time when you stop asking only, Will my body stay strong? You start asking. Will my memory stay with me? Will I remember the faces I love? Will I remember my own stories? Will I remember why I walked into a room? People think aging is only about bones and skin, but sometimes the first thing you're afraid to lose is your mind. So I never pushed fish away. I did not need the most expensive kind. I did not need a perfect meal. Even something simple was enough, because when you want to take care of your mind, you must take care of what you place in your body. And one day you may be thankful for every simple choice you made while you still had the chance. Number 3, eggs. This one makes me smile, because I have heard so many things about eggs in my life. Do not eat the yolk, only eat the white. Eggs are bad for you. Eggs will hurt your heart. Eggs are too rich. Eggs are dangerous. For years, people became afraid of one of the simplest foods on the table. But I never understood why we were suddenly supposed to fear what had fed people for generations. An egg was simple. An egg was honest. It did not come with a long list of ingredients. It did not pretend to be something else. When I was young, eggs were not something we wasted. If there was an egg on the table, we were thankful. Sometimes one egg was enough to make a poor breakfast feel like a real meal. Sometimes 2 eggs gave you the strength to work for hours. And yes, I ate the yolk, the whole egg, nothing removed, because to me, the egg was not meant to be divided. The goodness was in the whole thing. People forget that sometimes. They take something simple, break it apart, fear one piece, worship another piece, and then wonder why food feels so confusing. I am not saying everyone should eat the same way. I'm not saying eggs are for every person in every condition. But for me, eggs were part of a real life. They gave strength. They gave comfort. They were there in hard times. And even now, when I see an egg on my plate, I do not see fear. I see food, real food, the kind that asks for nothing but respect. Number 4, leafy greens. Now this is something people do not argue with as much, but many still ignore it. Greens, spinach, kale, lettuce, parsley, cabbage, whatever was fresh, whatever was available. When I was young, we did not always have meat, we did not always have fish, but there was usually something green, something from the ground, something that still looked like it had life in it. I used to think vegetables were just something placed beside the real food, a small thing, a side thing, something adults told children to eat. But the older I became, the more I understood. Green food is quiet. It does not shout. It does not fill the room with smell. It does not make you excited the way sweet food does. But it works in silence, for the blood, for the stomach, for the skin, for the parts of you that you cannot see. My father used to say something simple. If it still looks alive, it may help you stay alive. I did not understand that when I was young. But now, after all these years, I think about it often. A handful of greens, a simple salad, a warm plate of vegetables, nothing fancy, nothing expensive. But when you eat it often, something changes. You feel cleaner inside, lighter, not in one day, not like magic, but slowly, quietly. The body remembers, and the body thanks you in ways you may not notice until you are old. So if you ask me what I never removed from my life, I will tell you this. I never stopped eating food with color, especially green, because sometimes health does not arrive loudly. Sometimes it comes leaf by leaf, meal by meal, year by year. Number 5, beans. Beans are not glamorous, Nobody brags about beans. Nobody looks at a bowl of lentils or beans and says, "This is luxury." But let me tell you something. Some of the strongest people I knew grew up on simple bowls of beans, lentils, chickpeas, white beans, black beans, whatever people had. Beans were food for ordinary people, food for families, food for hard days, food that could fill a stomach without emptying a pocket. And maybe that is why I respect them so much. They were humble, but they carried strength. A warm bowl of beans could keep you going. It could make a simple meal feel complete. It could sit beside bread, vegetables, rice, or nothing at all, and still do its job. Today, people talk about protein, fiber, blood sugar, the gut, the heart. They have names for everything now. But back then, we only knew how it felt. You ate beans, and you stayed full. You worked. You walked. You carried on. Not with excitement. Not with a sudden rush. But with steady strength. And steady strength is something young people do not always understand. They want quick energy, quick results, quick changes. But life is not built on quick things. A long life is built on steady things. Small habits, simple meals, the kind of food that does not impress anyone, but quietly supports you for years. That is what beans were to me. Not a trend, not a diet, just food, honest food. And sometimes honest food is exactly what the body needs. Number 6, nuts. When I say nuts, I do not mean a bowl full of salted snacks eaten without thinking. I do not mean the kind covered in sugar. I do not mean the kind mixed with things you cannot recognize. I mean simple nuts. Walnuts, almonds, hazelnuts, a small handful, that is all. You do not need much. In fact, with some foods, too much can ruin the blessing. But a little can help. I learned that with nuts. A few pieces in the morning, a few beside fruit, sometimes just a small handful when hunger came between meals. They were not something we ate like candy. They were something we respected because they were dense. They carried energy. They carried oil. They carried something deep from the earth. And when you are old, you begin to understand the value of small things. A small walk, a small meal, a small conversation, a small handful of food that keeps you from reaching for something worse. That's how nuts stayed in my life, quietly, not every day in the same way, not always the same kind, but often enough. And I believe they help me avoid many empty foods, because when the body receives real nourishment, it does not beg as loudly for fake things. That is something I wish I'd understood sooner. The body's not always asking for more food. Sometimes it is asking for better food. And sometimes better food fits in the palm of your hand. Number 7, plain yogurt. This is one of the simplest things, and maybe one of the most forgotten. Plain yogurt. Not the sweet kind with bright colors. Not the one that tastes like dessert. Not the one full of sugar and flavors. I mean real plain yogurt. Sour. Clean. Simple. The kind that makes you feel like it is doing something good inside you. When I was younger, we did not talk much about the gut. Nobody told us about good bacteria. Nobody explained the stomach like it was a garden. But we knew when food sat well. We knew when something made the body feel calm. And yogurt was one of those foods, a spoonful with a meal, a small bowl beside vegetables, sometimes with fruit, sometimes alone. It did not need to be sweet. It did not need to be decorated. It was enough as it was. As I got older, I began to listen to my body more, and I noticed something. When the stomach is unhappy, the whole person becomes unhappy. Your mood changes, your energy changes, your sleep changes, even your patience changes. People think strength begins in the muscles, but sometimes strength begins much deeper, inside, where you cannot see. Plain yogurt was one of those foods that made me feel balanced, not instantly, not like medicine, but gently. And that is the kind of help I trust most, the kind that does not shout, the kind that simply stays with you. Now you have heard the 7: olive oil, fish, eggs, leafy greens, beans, nuts, plain yogurt. 7 simple foods, nothing strange, nothing expensive, nothing that needs a perfect life. But if you think these 7 foods are the whole secret, then you have not listened closely enough. Because food matters. Yes, it matters more than many people think. But food is not the whole story. I've known people who ate well and still felt empty. I've known people who took every vitamin and still looked tired in the eyes. I have known people who followed every rule but had no peace inside them. And over a long life, I learned something people do not say often enough. The body needs food, but the soul needs a reason to wake up, a reason to keep going, a reason to smile even when the bones hurt, a reason to sit at the table even when the meal is simple. Part 10, family, love, and purpose. For me, that reason was never just food. It was people, family, children, friends, the ones who laughed with me when life was hard, the ones who sat beside me when there was not much to eat, the ones who made a simple table feel full. I remember meals where there was not much, maybe fish, maybe vegetables, maybe beans, maybe just enough for everyone. But we were together, and because we were together, I felt full, not only in my stomach, in my heart. And when the heart is full, it gives the body a different kind of strength. Even when you are old, even when your hands shake, even when your legs are tired, there is still a part of you that says, not yet. I still want to stay. I still have someone to love. For me, that reason was never just food. It was people, family, children, friends, the ones who laughed with me when life was hard, the ones who sat beside me when there was not much to eat, the ones who made a simple table feel full. I remember meals where there was not much, maybe fish, maybe vegetables, maybe beans, maybe just enough for everyone, but we were together, and because we were together, I felt full, not only in my stomach, in my heart, and when the heart is full, it gives the body a different kind of strength, even when you're old, even when your hands shake, even when your legs are tired. There is still a part of you that says, not yet. I still want to stay. I still have someone to love. So if you ask me why I reached this age, I will not tell you it was only because of what I ate. It was also because I had reasons to stay alive. And before I leave you, listen to me carefully. Everything I told you, these 7 foods, they're what my body knew. They're what stayed with me. They helped me. But we are not all the same. If you have an illness, listen to your doctor. If your body has a condition, respect that. Do not copy another person's life without listening to your own. Your body speaks, quietly at first, then louder. Learn to hear it before it has to scream. But while you still have time, take care of yourself. Choose food that is real. Choose food that is simple. Choose what your body can recognize. And most of all, do not forget the people around you. If someone matters to you, tell them now. Do not wait for the perfect day. Do not wait until everyone is old. Do not wait until the chair beside you is empty. Say it now. Sit with them now. Eat with them now. Because sometimes a long life is not only counted in years, sometimes it is counted in simple meals, in honest food, in laughter, in love, and in the people who gave you a reason to keep going. If my story reminded you of something, write it below. I want to hear from you. And if you want to hear more reminders like this, stay with me. Do not disappear, because sometimes one reminder is all we need before it is too late.